Most people are chasing success. But here's the truth, what you think success is a lie, a carefully constructed illusion. And I'm here to rip the curtain wide open. Let me ask you something, do you want the truth? Or do you want comfort? Because the truth is this, success isn't sexy. It's not the mansion, the private jet, or the Rolex. Success is sweat, it's silence, it's sacrifice, it's pain. And nobody talks about that. They won't tell you this when you first get started. They'll show you the finish line, the champagne, the spotlight, the accolades, the followers, the applause. They'll show you the end of the movie, but what they never show you is the middle. The part where you're walking alone. The part where your phone stops ringing. The part where people stop showing up. Not because they don't care, but because they don't understand where you're going. That's the truth about success most people never prepare you for. It's lonely. Imagine this, you're in your early 20s. Your friends are going out every weekend, spending money they don't have, living for Friday night. But you've decided to build something. You say no to the party. You skip the drinks. You stay home, grinding late into the night, learning, creating, building. At first, they respect it. They'll say, you're so motivated. They'll cheer you on for a while until your consistency becomes a threat to their comfort. Until your growth becomes a mirror they didn't ask for. Suddenly, you're too serious. You've guessed what? They're right. You have changed. You must change if you're serious about success. People talk about growth like it's a glow up, like it's all aesthetics and aesthetics only. But real growth, it's brutal. It's painful. It costs you people, habits, environments, and sometimes even your identity. You start noticing things. Conversations that used to entertain you now bore you. People who used to inspire you now drain you. You stop laughing at the same jokes. You stop craving the same distractions. And this distance you feel between you and the world, that's the price of evolution. That's the tax on elevation. That's the loneliness no one warns you about. Let me give you a daily life example. There's a young woman who starts waking up at 5 a.m. to work out and journal before her job. She doesn't tell anyone, she just does it. Over time, her energy shifts, her posture changes, her ambition sharpens. But instead of applause, she gets his sarcasm. Oh, you're one of those 5 a.m. people now. Relax. You're doing too much. It's not that they hate her. It's that her discipline highlights their drift. Her effort is a reminder of everything they aren't doing. And so the distance grows. Or take the guy who decides to start his own business. He stops going out, cuts back on spending, reinvests every dollar. He skips birthdays. He doesn't respond to memes in the group chat anymore. Not because he doesn't care, but because his bandwidth is spent trying to survive. And then the comments start. You're always working. You never have time anymore. What's the point if you're not enjoying life? They don't see the invoices. They don't see the risk. They don't see the doubt he fights every night when no one is watching. They just see someone who chose a different lane. A lonelier lane. That's what success does. It separates you. It doesn't ask for permission. It quietly rearranges your circle, your mindset, your priorities. And in that process, you lose people. Not because you're better, because your values no longer match. And no one prepares you for the grief that comes with that. The grief of outgrowing what once felt like home. But here's the magic inside the loneliness. It creates clarity. It sharpens your focus. When no one's around to hype you up, you learn to hype yourself. When no one claps, you learn to celebrate in silence. When no one checks in, you learn to become your own accountability partner. The solitude becomes your sanctuary. The silence becomes your strategy. And that's when the real growth begins. You stop needing the crowd. You stop chasing validation. You start showing up for the mission, not the applause. When you hit those milestones, whether it's launching your brand, publishing your book, landing that dream job, you'll know it was you who got you there, not the likes, not the noise, not the approval. And here's the truth, the loneliness doesn't last forever. It just prepares you. It builds you. It toughens you for the responsibility that real success demands. Because success isn't just about getting what you want. It's about becoming someone who can handle what you want. And you don't build that version of you in crowds or comfort zones. You build it in isolation, in the quiet, in the grind, in the moments no one sees. So if you're walking alone right now, if your phone is dry, if you feel misunderstood, if your days are filled with sacrifice and your nights are filled with silence, you are not lost. You are in the zone. You are in the rare space where champions are made, where legends are born, where average people give up and extraordinary ones rise. Don't fear the loneliness. Honor it. Embrace it. Because one day, that silence you're sitting in, it will echo with the sound of your impact. And those who doubted you will wish they had walked with you when they had the chance. We've all heard the phrase, work hard and you'll succeed. It's the motto we're fed from childhood, plastered across school walls and motivational posters. And yes, hard work has value. Discipline, consistency, and grit are foundational. But here's the truth, no one tells you hard work alone will not get you there. Hard work without direction is like running full speed on a treadmill. You're exhausted, dripping with sweat, but you haven't moved an inch. If you want to succeed, not just survive, you need to stop glorifying grind for grind's sake and start working smart. Let's talk about this in real life. Imagine two people with dreams of building successful business. One wakes up every day at 5 a.m., works 14-hour days, there's every email, attends every meeting, designs every flyer, posts 5 times a day on social media, and spends their nights buried in YouTube tutorials. They're always busy, always tired, always stressed. But year after year, they stay stuck in the same place. Now, picture someone else who also wakes up early, but instead of diving into chaos, they sit in silence for the first 20 minutes. They delegate tasks, focus on their strengths, and only take meetings that matter. They ask themselves every morning, what's the one action I can take today that moves the needle? They don't do everything. They do what counts. And because of that, their business grows faster, stronger, less burnout. That's the power of strategic work. You see, most people confuse motion with progress. Just because you're doing a lot doesn't mean you're doing what matters. You can hustle all day long, but if your ladder is leaning against the wrong wall, climbing faster doesn't help. It just gets you to the wrong place quicker. Let's say you're trying to lose weight. One person runs 10 miles a day and eats whatever they want, thinking the exercise will cancel it out. Another walks for just 30 minutes, but sticks to a clean, calorie-conscious diet. Who's going to see better results? Not the one who worked harder, the one who worked smarter. The same principle applies to money, business, relationships, and personal growth. It's not about how much effort you give, it's about how effective that effort is. Strategic work is about asking better questions. It's about stepping back and analyzing. Where is your time going? What actions produce results? What are you doing out of habit that isn't even helping you anymore? It means putting systems in place. Instead of reacting to chaos, it means investing in mentorship and automation and better tools, not just working longer hours. Think about it. You can dig a hole with a spoon for 10 hours and call it grinding, or you can spend 10 minutes finding a shovel. That's the difference between working hard and working smart. Drains you, the other scales you. And let's talk ego for a moment. Some people cling to hard work because it feels noble. They want to be seen as the one who stays up late, skips meals, sacrifices everything. But if you're constantly overwhelmed, if your life is on fire and you're calling it passion, that's not hustle. That's dysfunction, and it will catch up to you. Burnout isn't a badge of honor. It's a warning sign. Look at the most successful people in the world. Yes, they work hard, but more importantly, they work with vision. They know where they're going. They say no to distractions. They build teams. They create leverage. They invest time into thinking, not just doing. That's what separates leaders from laborers. That's what builds empires instead of endlessly spinning in survival mode. Strategic work also means aligning your actions with your goals. If you say your goal is financial freedom, you're spending every spare dollar on fast food and impulse buys, you're not being strategic. If you say you want to be a great speaker but never practice, never study the greats, never get coaching, then your hustle is just noise. The truth is, every minute you spend without a clear outcome in mind is a minute you can't get back. Every hour spent reacting instead of planning is energy wasted. You need to audit your life the same way a CEO audits a company. Where are you bleeding time? What tasks should you stop, delegate, or automate? What's your highest value activity? And are you doing enough of it? Let me say it like this: hard work builds a solid foundation. Strategic work builds a skyscraper. If you want to be exceptional, stop trying to be the busiest person in the room. Be the clearest, the most focused, the most intentional. Anyone can be tired at the end of the day, but very few can say, everything I did today brought me closer to my vision. So the next time you hear someone say, just work hard, take a breath, ask yourself, work hard at what? Is it the right goal, the right task, the right use of your energy? Because in the end, it's not about how many hours you worked, it's about how much progress you made. And that is the difference that defines true success. You want success, real success, not just looking good for Instagram, not just surface level recognition, but the kind of success that transforms your life and leaves a legacy. Then let me tell you something raw and real: you can't have it without sacrifice. Period. This is the part most people don't want to hear. Everyone wants a reward. Almost no one wants to pay the price. And success, authentic, sustainable, soul deep success, demands payment in full. Every dream you chase comes with a cost. That's the rule. You can't upgrade your life without letting go of something. It might be comfort, it might be ego, it might be people, habits, or time. Something must go for something greater to grow. It's a law of life. You can't have elevation without elimination. And anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you a shortcut that doesn't exist. Let's talk about real life. Think of the college student who wants to become a doctor. While their friends are out every weekend partying and sleeping in, the next day they're up at 5 a.m. studying organic chemistry. They miss weddings, birthdays, and vacations. They don't do it because they love pain. They do it because they see what's waiting on the other side, a life of impact, healing, financial freedom. That's sacrifice. That's the trade-off. Or take the single mom who works 2 jobs, goes back to school, and builds a business from her kitchen table while her kids sleep. You think she doesn't want to rest? You think she doesn't crave ease? Of course she does. But she's sacrificing now so her kids won't have to later. That's not just hard work, that's heart. That's sacrifice in motion. And here's the thing, sacrifice isn't glamorous. It's not flashy. It's not Instagrammable. It's silent, it's lonely. It's choosing to be misunderstood today so you can be admired tomorrow. It's giving up short-term pleasure for long-term gain. While others are indulging, you're investing. While others are wasting time, you're building. And yes, it can hurt. Growth always does. But that pain, that's the price of purpose. Sacrifice isn't just about time. It's also about who you're willing to become. Sometimes the biggest thing you'll have to sacrifice is the current version of you. The version that loves to scroll for hours, the version that avoids hard conversations, the version that hides from responsibility. That version can't go where your dream is going. That version has to die for the next one to live. So many people sabotage their potential because they want comfort more than change. They want the dream life, but they also want to sleep in, binge, watch shows, avoid risk, and keep everyone around them happy. You can't have both. You want freedom. Sacrifice laziness, you want wealth. Sacrifice distraction, you want impact. Sacrifice your excuses. Success doesn't come from what you say you want. It comes from what you're willing to give up to get it. Now let's look at the gym. It's the clearest metaphor in life. You want to get in shape. You got to sacrifice junk food. Sacrifice comfort. Sacrifice that little voice in your head that says, just skip today. Because each choice stacks. Every meal, every workout, every late night craving you walk away from. That's a sacrifice. And every one of those sacrifices is an investment in your future self. And here's the truth no one talks about. You will have to sacrifice before you see results. That's the hardest part. You'll be putting in the work, staying disciplined, turning things down, and nothing will seem to change. People will question you, you'll question yourself, but the results always lag behind the effort. You're planting seeds today that won't bloom for months, even years. That's why most people quit, because they want instant results. But success rewards those who trust the process long enough to deserve the outcome. Sacrifice doesn't mean suffering forever. It's not about living in deprivation. It's about temporary discipline for permanent power. You're not saying no to everything. You're saying yes to something bigger. That's what most people miss. Sacrifice isn't about loss. It's about alignment. It's about removing what no longer serves the future you're building. It's about clarity, focus, and fire. You want a better life? Then ask yourself honestly, what am I willing to let go of? Because the gap between where you are and where you want to be is bridged by the sacrifices you're willing to make. And let me be clear, this isn't about hustling yourself into the ground. It's not about burnout or martyrdom. Strategic sacrifice is powerful, not destructive. It means letting go of what's in the way so you can make space for what's meant to stay. It's the art of choosing with intention. Sacrificing average so you can live extraordinary. So the next time you see someone living the life you dream of, don't just look at what they have, look at what they gave up to get it. The early mornings, the missed invites, the self-doubt, the criticism, the discipline, the relentless commitment to something bigger than comfort. That's the part of the story most people skip. That's the part that makes it real. Success doesn't just ask, what do you want? It asks, what are you willing to give up to get it? And when you can answer that question with honesty, hunger, and heart, that's when everything changes. No one tells you this when you start chasing success. You set your goals, you build your vision board, you write your affirmations. You're excited, inspired, and full of energy. You think it's all about the hustle, the strategy, the hours you put in. But the deeper you go, the higher you climb, the more you realize you're not just building a business or career, you're confronting yourself. And that's when the truth hits you like a wave. Your trauma will show up. It shows up when you're about to speak in front of a room and suddenly feel like a scared kid who's afraid to be judged. It shows up when you're about to launch your big idea and you freeze, not because you're lazy, but because somewhere deep inside, a voice whispers, what if you're not good enough? It shows up when you sabotage opportunities, when you procrastinate on your dreams, when you shrink yourself in rooms where you should be standing tall. Why? Because success isn't just about reaching goals, it's about becoming the person who can hold them. And that process will trigger every unhealed part of you, every childhood wound, every rejection you never talked about, every moment where you felt unseen, unloved, or not enough. It all comes to the surface when you try to level up. Take a daily life example. Imagine someone growing up in a home where love was conditional, where approval only came when they performed. Now they're adults chasing success like a drug, not to create impact. To finally feel worthy, they don't rest, they don't celebrate, they grind and grind and grind, because slowing down feels like failure. No amount of money or praise can fill the emotional hole they're trying to cover. That's trauma, and it's silently steering the ship. Or think about the entrepreneur who keeps hiring the wrong people over and over. Deep down, they don't trust others. Why? Maybe it's because they were betrayed early in life. Maybe they learned that relying on others leads to pain. So now they try to do everything alone, burning themselves out, never delegating. That's not a business problem. That's a personal wound showing up in their leadership. And how about the person who has incredible talent but never promotes themselves? They downplay their success. They let others take credit, not because they're humble, but because somewhere along the way they were taught that being confident is being arrogant. Or maybe they were shamed for shining too bright. So now every time they have a chance to step forward, they pull back. That's trauma. And it's costing them everything they say they want. This is the hidden battle no one talks about on the road to success. Everyone talks about strategy, branding, algorithms, sales funnels. But the real work, the deep, hard, invisible work, that's healing. It's staring into the parts of yourself that you've ignored, suppressed, avoided for years, and choosing to deal with them, not because you're broken, but because you're becoming. You can't outwork your trauma. You can't outperform your wounds. You might make some progress, sure, but eventually your inner world will catch up to your outer achievements. And when that happens, if you haven't done the healing, the very success you dreamed of will become heavy. You'll feel like a fraud. You'll sabotage. You'll break under pressure, not because you're not capable, because your foundation wasn't strong enough to carry the weight of your vision. Healing is not weakness. It's not soft. It's the most courageous thing you'll ever do. It means taking responsibility for your story. It means confronting the lies you've believed about yourself. It means going back to the moments that shaped you. Not to stay there, to free yourself from them. Because the more you heal, the more space you create for power, peace, and purpose. Think of healing like renovating a house. If the walls are cracked, if the wiring is faulty, you can slap on new paint all day, but eventually everything will crumble. Your trauma is the faulty wiring, your habits, fears, and triggers, they're the cracks. If you don't deal with them, you'll keep building something that's always one step away from collapse. But if you do the hard work, if you get in there and rebuild from the inside out, then you'll create a life and success that actually lasts. You don't need to be perfect to succeed, but you do need to be aware. You need to know your patterns. You need to understand why you do what you do. You need to be brave enough to sit with your pain, feel it, and then rewrite the story. So if you find yourself procrastinating, overthinking, comparing, burning out, breaking down, it doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you're not cut out for this. It means your old wounds are rising up and asking to be seen, not to stop you, but to free you. Because here's the beautiful truth, healing and success go hand in hand. The more you heal, the more you trust. The more you trust, the more you risk. The more you risk, the more you grow. The more you grow, the more you lead. And the more you lead, the more you change lives, including your own. This journey is not just about achieving more, it's about becoming more. And becoming more means being willing to face what's been holding you back in the dark. So don't fear the pain that shows up as you rise. It's not here to break you. It's here to reveal you, because the most successful version of you is already inside you, just waiting for you to heal enough to let them lead. This one stings. It's uncomfortable. But if you're chasing real success, you need to hear it. Most people don't actually want to see you win. Not in the way you think. They'll clap for you when it's convenient. They'll smile and say, "I'm proud of you," when the stakes are low. But the moment you start rising, truly rising above the noise, above the average, above the norm, that's when things shift. That's when the silence gets louder. The compliments slow down. The support gets weird. And you start to notice something strange. The people who were loud when you were stuck become quiet when you start to shine. Why is that? Because your success is a mirror. And not everyone likes their reflection. See, when you're playing small, when you're struggling, when you're on their level, people feel comfortable. They relate to you. They feel safe around you. But when you start making moves, real moves, when you start showing up with vision, discipline, and power, you begin to disrupt the status quo. You unintentionally challenge the people around you to look at their own lives, their own choices, their own lack of action. And most people don't want to do that. So what do? Instead, they pull away. Or worse, they subtly try to pull you back down. You'll hear things like, don't forget where you came from, or you're acting different lately, or you sure you want to risk all that? And it won't sound like hate, it'll sound like concern, but make no mistake, it's resistance. Not because they want to hurt you, but because your growth makes them uncomfortable. Take this in your daily life. You decide to change your habits. You stop drinking every weekend. You cut back on gossip. You start waking up early and working on your goals. Suddenly, your friends start joking, who do you think you are? You feel the shift. The energy changes, not because you've done something wrong, but because you've done something different, something bold, something they're not ready to do. Or think about when someone from a small town suddenly makes it big, starts a business, becomes a local success, gets known. You'll see the comments. They think they're better than us now. Must be nice. The same people once cheered are now whispering. What changed? Not the winner. The perspective of those still sitting in the stands. And let's be real, this doesn't just happen with strangers. Sometimes it's the people closest to you. Family, friends, coworkers. Not because they hate you, not even because they don't love you, but because they love comfort more. Because they don't understand what it takes to chase something bigger. And because whether they realize it or not, they fear being left behind. Success can be lonely, yes, but more than that, it can be isolating when you realize not everyone clapping for you is rooting for you. Some people are just close enough to watch, to monitor, to compare, waiting for the moment you slip, just so they can say, see, I knew it wouldn't last. But here's what you need to know, their reaction isn't your responsibility. You weren't put on this earth to make everyone comfortable. You weren't born to stay small just so others feel big. Your job is not to shrink yourself to fit into spaces that no longer match your vision. Your job is to grow, evolve, even if it means doing it without the applause you thought you'd get. And when you understand this, you free yourself. You stop needing permission. You stop waiting for validation. You stop begging for people to get it, because you realize not everyone was meant to go with you. Some people were part of your story, not your destiny. Some people were lessons, not lifelong companions. But here's the good news. When you keep rising, when you stay true to your mission, you'll attract new people, aligned people, people who aren't threatened by your growth, but inspired by it. People who celebrate you genuinely, not just tolerate you conditionally. People who don't ask you to turn it down, but push you to turn it all the way up. Because the right people won't just clap when you win, they'll push you to win bigger. And that's the tribe you're building, not the crowd that watched you struggle, the circle that pushes you forward. So let the quiet ones stay quiet. Let the distant ones drift. Let the doubters doubt. That's not your focus. Your focus is the work, the mission, the legacy. You weren't born to fit in. You were born to break patterns, break cycles, and break limits. Yes, it hurts when people change as you grow. It's painful when you realize not everyone who started with you will finish with you. But that pain, it's proof that you're moving, that you're shifting, that you're evolving beyond what most people are even willing to imagine. And that's what this game is really about. So if you've been feeling that sting, if you've noticed that as you rise, some people fade, don't question your path. Don't slow down to chase people who chose comfort over growth. Don't lower your standards just to be accepted by those still afraid of their own power. You're not doing this for claps. You're not doing this to be liked. You'll be doing this to change your life, to break every limitation, to become everything you were meant to be. And if that makes people uncomfortable, let them be. You got work to do. Here's a truth that the self-help world doesn't talk about enough. Motivation is not loyal. It doesn't stick around. It shows up when things feel exciting. When you're watching that powerful video, when you hear a great speech, when you scroll past a quote that hits you in your chest, that's motivation. It gives you a little rush, a high, a temporary boost, and that's fine. Motivation can spark the engine, no doubt. But it will not keep the wheels turning, because the moment life gets hard, and it will, motivation vanishes. So what do you do when you no longer feel like showing up? When the fire burns out, when the rush is gone, that's where discipline comes in. That's where greatness is born. Not in the hype, but in the habit. Let's make this real. Think about the person who wakes up on January 1st, motivated to get in shape. They buy the gym clothes. They sign up for the membership. They even post on social media, this is my year. For the first 2 weeks, they're consistent. But then comes a rainy Monday. Then the scale doesn't move. Then soreness kicks in. Motivation disappears. And they stop going. Now contrast that with someone who trains 5 times a week, not because they're motivated, because they've built the habit. It's what they do no matter how they feel. Rain or shine, tired or energized, motivated or not, they show up. Why? Because they've made a decision that isn't based on emotion. That's discipline. And that's the difference between temporary action and lasting transformation. You won't always want to do the thing. Some mornings you'll wake up exhausted. Some days your mind will be full of doubt. You'll hear that little voicey, take a break. You've earned it. Just skip this one thing. It won't matter. You're tired. Just do it tomorrow. That voice is not your truth. That voice is your comfort zone begging for control. And if you listen to it long enough, it will kill your dream in silence. Because dreams don't die all at once. They die from 1,000 little decisions to give in. The most successful people in the world aren't superhuman. They're not more talented, more gifted, or more energized than you. They've just made peace with repetition. They've built systems. They've developed routines that operate with or without motivation. They ask, do I feel like it? They ask, is this aligned with who I said I want to become? And if the answer is yes, they do it, no matter what. This applies to every area of life. Think about writing a book. You can be deeply motivated for a week. Maybe you write 5 chapters in a burst of creativity. But then life gets busy. The inspiration fades, and that's where most people stop. But the author who finishes the book, they sit down every day and write, even when the words come slow, even when it's messy, even when they'd rather do anything else. And that consistency, that's what creates the masterpiece, not the hype, not the energy. The habit. Take building a business. It sounds sexy, right? Be your own boss, make your own schedule, chase your dreams. What they don't tell you is that some days you'll make $0. Some days no one will respond to your emails. Some days your ideas will flop. And on those days, motivation disappears. But if you've built the discipline to show up anyway, to refine, to adapt, to keep moving, then you outlast the noise, you become undeniable. Here's something to understand: discipline isn't punishment. It's freedom. It's power. It's the key to building a life where we don't have to rely on moods or circumstances. Discipline says, even when I don't feel like it, I will honor my commitment. And that creates momentum. That momentum creates results. And those results, they start to become your new motivation. But it starts with you deciding that your feelings are not your leader. That you won't let a temporary emotion derail a permanent goal. That you'll do the hard thing, not because you love doing it, but because you love who you're becoming when you do. Let's go back to everyday life. You want to become financially free. That's not going to come from motivation to save money once a month. It's going to come from the discipline to create a budget and stick to it. To say no to instant gratification, to learn, invest, and repeat, even when your friends are out spending and having fun. It's the boring stuff, the invisible work, the unsexy routines. That's where freedom is built. Even relationships need discipline. Anyone can be motivated to love someone when it's easy. But real love shows up in consistency. In effort and the decision to stay kind, communicate, forgive, and grow even when it's not convenient. Motivation builds the spark. Discipline keeps the fire alive. So the next time you feel unmotivated, congratulations. That's your test. That's your turning point. That's the exact moment you choose whether you're serious or just interested. Whether you're building a life or chasing a feeling. Let the world chase motivation. Let them wait for inspiration. You build discipline. Because discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It asks what you want to become. And when you answer that with action over and over again, you become unstoppable. Let's get this straight. The version of you reading this right now will not be the version of you who achieves your biggest dream. That's the hard truth. It's not just about doing more. It's about becoming more. The person you are today has brought you this far, but if you want to go further, if you want to break ceilings, change your life, and walk into a future that looks nothing like your past, you're going to have to let go of who you've been. Because success isn't just a destination. It's an identity shift. Think about that. Everyone talks about what they want: more money, more time, better relationships, deeper purpose. Very few people understand what it really takes to hold those things. You don't get the dream life by wishing for it. You get it by becoming the kind of person who lives it as a natural byproduct of who they are. That means you have to change deeply. Not just what you do, but how you think, how you speak, how you carry yourself, what you tolerate, what you believe about yourself, and most importantly, what you believe is possible. Look at it through everyday life. Let's say you want to be financially free. That doesn't just mean earning more money. It means becoming someone who thinks like a wealthy person. Someone who plans, who invests, delays gratification, who studies money instead of fearing it. You can win the lottery tomorrow and still be broke in 5 years if your identity hasn't shifted. Why? Because you'll sabotage it. You'll subconsciously return to what's familiar. That's the power of identity. It always pulls you back to what feels normal. Even if that normal is mediocrity, Or imagine someone who wants to become a confident public speaker. They might study techniques, write powerful speeches, watch TED Talks. If deep down they still see themselves as shy or awkward or not enough, none of it sticks. They might pull off one great performance, but their old identity will sabotage their consistency. Why? Because no matter what they do, they haven't changed who they believe they are. Here's the brutal truth: your current identity has limits. It has beliefs like, not that disciplined. I've always been bad with money. I'm not a morning person. People like me don't succeed like that. These aren't truths. They're stories, and every time you repeat them, you reinforce the ceiling. You stay stuck in a self-imposed prison made of your own thoughts. But success? Real success? It breaks you out. It invites you to let go of every old label, every old habit, every lie you've told yourself about who you are and what you're worth. It demands that you step into a version of yourself you haven't met yet. The version that doesn't make excuses, that takes ownership, that shows up like a leader, even when they feel like a fraud. That version of you is waiting, but you have to be willing to kill off the current version to meet them. That's why success is painful. That's why growth hurts, because it's death and rebirth. You're shedding layers of insecurity, of fear, of identity that no longer serve you. It's like upgrading your software. You can't run your new operating system on the old program. You have to uninstall what no longer fits. That might mean changing your environment. It might mean losing relationships. It might mean being misunderstood. That's the cost of evolution. And most people aren't willing to pay it. Think about the caterpillar. It literally has to dissolve in the cocoon before it becomes a butterfly. There's no halfway transformation, no comfortable transition. It breaks down completely before it rises. That's identity work. That's what success requires. Total surrender to the process of becoming. So, how do you do it in real life? You start acting like the version of yourself who already has what you want, even before you feel ready, even when it feels like a lie. If your future self is healthy, you move like someone who honors their body. If your future self is a millionaire, you make decisions with that mindset. You show up early, you speak boldly. You say no to what no longer fits, and every time you do, you prove to your brain, this is who I am now. And with enough repetition, your identity shifts. But it takes guts, because when you change, you risk losing things. People comfort familiarity. But here's the flip side: you gain freedom, you gain clarity, you gain alignment, and suddenly you stop hustling so hard or achieve success because you become someone who naturally attracts it. This is what they don't tell you. It's not about chasing the goal. It's about becoming the kind of person who can handle it, sustain it, grow it, and give it. Your habits, your mindset, your language, all of it must evolve. Because the future you isn't luckier or more talented, they're just more aligned. So if you're stuck, plateaued, or spinning your wheels, stop asking what you need to do and start asking who you need to become. Because your next level is not outside of you. It's inside of you. It's not waiting on someone else to hand it to you. It's waiting on you to step into it. You don't need to hustle harder. You need to shed the version of yourself that was never meant to carry your dreams. And when you do that, when you truly embody the next you, that's when success stops being a chase and starts becoming your new normal. In the grind culture that's glorified today, rest almost feels like a betrayal. You've heard the slogans. Sleep is for the weak, no days off, hustle till it hurts. They sound powerful, right? Let me tell you something raw and real. That mindset is killing more dreams than it's building. Because if you believe that rest is weakness, you've already lost. Rest isn't a detour from success. Rest is part of the strategy. It's not a luxury, it's a weapon. A secret tool that the high achievers use to sustain longevity, creativity, and clarity. Success isn't about burning out and bragging about how tired you are. It's about staying in the game long enough to win it. And that means learning how to pause without quitting. Learning how to recharge without shame. Because if you don't make time for rest, life will make time for breakdowns, and trust me, the cost of burnout is far greater than the cost of taking a break. Think about a smartphone. You use it all day. Calls, emails, texts, apps, navigation. It serves you. It performs. It works hard. But eventually what happens? The battery dies, not because the phone is broken, but because it needs energy. And if you never recharge it, it doesn't matter how expensive it is or how powerful its features are, it shuts down. You are no different. You can be brilliant, gifted, driven, and still crash if you don't plug back into your power source. That's what rest does. It doesn't take you out of the game. It keeps you in it. Let's take a look at athletes, class professionals, Olympians, NFL players, MMA fighters. They train with intensity, yes, but they also prioritize recovery, massage therapy, cold plunges, sleep cycles, rest days. Why? Because they understand something most people miss: growth happens in the recovery. The muscles don't grow in the gym. They grow when you rest. The same is true for your mind, your business, your relationships, and your life. You build during action, but you become during rest. And this is where most people get it twisted. They think rest means laziness, that if they take a break, they're falling behind. But let's get one thing straight. Rest is not quitting. Rest is choosing sustainability over self-destruction. It's saying, I honor my energy because I have a mission worth showing up for. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. You want to perform at your highest level, then you need to operate from a full cup. You can't pour into your goals, your family, your vision, or your calling if you're depleted. You can't make clear decisions when your brain is fogged from fatigue. You can't be creative when you're surviving on caffeine and guilt. That's not power, that's panic. And panic doesn't build empires. Presence does. Let's make this real in daily life. Think of the single parent working 2 jobs, chasing their dream at night. They're warriors, no doubt. But even they need moments of silence, moments to breathe, a walk in nature, a quiet moment with a book, or just a nap. Not because they're lazy, because they're carrying so much, and a burned out parent can't be present. A tired dreamer can't innovate. Rest is how they refill the fire. Or think about the entrepreneur building a startup. The first few months, pure adrenaline, but then stress piles up, mistakes happen. Ideas dry out. Why? Because they haven't stepped back, they haven't given their brain time to reflect. And that stillness, that silence, that's where breakthroughs are born. That's where clarity lives. You can hustle all day long, but if your direction is off by even 2%, you're building in the wrong direction. Rest allows you to realign. Even in nature, trees don't grow year-round. There's a season of harvest, yes, but also seasons of stillness, dormancy, restoration. The tree isn't dead, it's storing power, gathering strength for the next season of growth. If nature honors rest, why do you think you're above it? Now, let's talk about guilt, because that's what keeps most people from resting. That whisper in your head that says, you should be doing something right now. You feel it when you sit down, when you unplug, when you slow your pace. But here's the thing, that guilt, it's not truth, it's conditioning. It's the voice of burnout culture, not the voice of your highest self. The truth is, when you rest, you're not wasting time, you're investing it. You're building the capacity to move with purpose instead of pressure. You're creating space for strategy instead of survival. And that space, that's where greatness grows. So yes, work hard, be relentless in your vision, show up with discipline. Don't wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. Don't confuse burnout with productivity. The goal isn't just to succeed, it's to sustain. To build a life you don't need to escape from. And that life, it starts with honoring the pause. Understanding that rest isn't stepping away from success, it's stepping into it with power. Because the real winners, they know when to sprint, but they also know when to breathe. And that rest is not the end of progress. It's the beginning of your next level.